Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive from English Daily Podcasts. I'm your host, and it's really great to have you tuning in.
Hello.
So here on the Deep Dive, what we do is take materials suggested by you, our listeners, and we really dig into them.
Yeah, we pull out the key insights, the useful bits, so you get the core information without, wading through everything yourself.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into something many of you have asked about: getting better at understanding and speaking English in just normal, everyday situations.
That's right. And our source for this deep dive is content from the YouTube channel, The English Pod Community. They've got some really practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal today is basically to unpack some of their strategies and examples, hopefully helping you feel, well, more confident when you're communicating in English day to day.
Okay, let's jump right in. So the English Pod Community content starts with a really important point, actually.
Which is?
Well, that understanding spoken English, in real life can be surprisingly tough, even if you've studied from books for ages.
Oh, totally. The classic textbook versus reality gap.
Exactly. They tell this little story about someone called Daniel in New York. He's trying to order a croissant.
Ah, the croissant. A tricky one.
Right. He says it perfectly, like textbook perfect. Croissant. But the cashier just blank stares until another customer leans over and says something like croissant. And boom, suddenly the cashier gets it.
Right. And that little story, it seems simple, but it says so much, doesn't it?
It really does?
You learn the correct way, the standard way, but how people actually say words, like a busy cafe, with background noise, maybe with an accent, it can sound quite different.
Yeah, those little sound shifts, the way things get sort of smoothed out when people talk fast.
Precisely. So listening to real English, not just recordings for learners, helps train your ear for those variations. It's key for understanding and, well, for being understood too.
Absolutely. And the point they make is the more you expose yourself to this real, everyday English, the more natural it starts to feel.
You pick up the rhythm, the intonation.
Yeah, the music of the language almost. And you hear common phrases again and again, and you just naturally start to feel, more comfortable using them yourself.
It's about moving from passive knowledge, just knowing the rules, to active use. Recognizing pronunciation differences helps build that bridge. It gives you the confidence to actually speak.
Okay, so that's pronunciation. Now, another big hurdle they talk about is idioms and expressions.
Oh, yes. Those phrases that don't mean what the individual words suggest.
Exactly. Super common in spoken English, but often not taught explicitly in textbooks. They share a story about Emma in Canada.
Right. Emma hears someone say, touch base in a meeting.
And she's completely lost.
Yeah.
Touch base, like in baseball.
Understandable confusion, because it's not literal at all. Touch base, as they explain, just means to check in, have a quick chat, or update someone.
It's a classic idiom. So how do you deal with these when you hear them?
Well, their advice is pretty practical. Don't just look it up and try to memorize a definition. Instead, really pay attention to the context. How is it being used in that conversation?
Right, see it in action.
Then try saying it out loud yourself.
Yeah.
Get the feel of it, and maybe even try, using it in one of your own sentences later.
I like that. It makes it active. You're not just reading a definition. You're making it part of your own language.
Exactly. It sticks better that way.
Okay. The video also highlights those everyday situations where specific phrases just pop up constantly. Knowing them makes interactions smoother.
Like checking into a hotel.
Yeah, exactly. The receptionist might ask, "Would you like a wake-up call?"
Which, if you've never heard it, could sound a bit odd. A call to wake up.
Right. But it just means they'll phone your room at a specific time in the morning. Simple, but you need to know the phrase.
Is those little things.
Absolutely. Okay, let's try a quick practice like they do. I'll say a sentence, and you listening at home just repeat it after me. Ready?
Go for it.
I'd like to order a coffee, please. Pause or listener.
Good. Okay, here's another very common one. Host.
Sure. Listen and repeat. Could you repeat that, please? Pause for a listener.
Perfect. See? Simple, polite, but hearing them and saying them builds that confidence muscle. Like the video says, you'll feel much readier to use them when you actually need to.
Now, sticking with that gap between textbook and real life, the English Pod Community shares another story. This one's about David, who moved to London.
Ah, the London experience.
Yeah, he'd studied English for years, textbooks, grammar drills, felt pretty confident.
But then came the real-world conversations.
Exactly. First day at work, meeting the team. Everyone's friendly, but they talk fast. And they use all these expressions he'd never seen in his books. Then lunchtime comes.
Let me guess.
A coworker says, "Hey, David, let's grab a bite."
in David's thinking. Grab a bite of what?
Pretty much. He was totally confused.
Yeah, grab a bite is so common for let's get something to eat. But if you've learned more formal English, it can definitely throw you.
It really highlights how spoken English often uses these like shortcuts, quicker, more informal ways of saying things.
And that made David realize something important, right?
Yeah, that his grammar was solid, his vocabulary was decent, but he desperately needed more practice just listening to how people actually talk.
So what did he do? The video mentions his strategy.
He did something smart. He started listening to English podcasts during his commute.
Good move. Passive listening practice.
And at lunchtime, even though it was intimidating at first, he actually joined his colleagues. He made the effort to be part of the conversation.
That takes guts when you're not feeling confident.
Totally.
Yeah.
But he wasn't afraid to ask, sorry, what does that mean? Or could you say that again?
And presumably, people were happy to help.
Yeah, his coworkers were supportive.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, gradually, he started understanding more, feeling more comfortable.
And the video gives that example of him understanding wrap things up.
Right. Later on in a meeting, the manager says, all right, let's wrap things up. And this time, David knew instantly.
Finish the meeting.
Exactly. It just clicked because he'd heard that kind of natural language more often.
It's a great illustration. Consistent exposure to natural spoken English really does build both understanding and confidence. Sometimes the words are easy, but the way they're strung together is different.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The video talks about understanding questions based on the context, the situation you're in. This is crucial.
Right, because the same words can mean different things depending on where you are.
Their example is arriving at immigration in an English-speaking country. The officer asks, "What's the purpose of your visit?"
That can sound quite formal and maybe a bit daunting if you're not expecting it.
Definitely. But the video clarifies the expected answer is usually simple. Tourism, visiting family, business. It's about knowing the standard questions for specific situations.
Like border control.
Exactly. They also tell a story about Sophia traveling to Australia. She gets nervous when asked, do you have anything to declare?
Ah, declare. Sounds very official, very serious.
Yeah, she thought it was something major, but in that airport context.
It just means, do you need to report any specific items you're bringing in, like certain foods, lots of cash, that kind of thing?
Right. Once she understood the context, the worry disappeared.
It's all about context.
Okay, let's do another quick practice with common travel questions from the video. Ready, repeat after me. Where are you traveling from? Pause.
Good. And another one you might hear. Do you have a return ticket? Pause.
Excellent. Like they say, practice these situational questions and you'll feel much calmer when you hear them for real.
Moving right along, the video tackles restaurants and cafes. Very practical stuff.
Super practical. They talk about Mark, who gets confused when the cafe worker asks, for here or to go?
Classic. Happens all the time.
So simple, but if you haven't heard it, for here means you'll eat or drink in the cafe.
And to go means you want takeaway. You're taking it with you.
Simple when you know it.
They also point out that in the U.S. especially, people often order by saying, can I get a lassi? Instead of maybe a more formal, I would like a...
Yeah, can I get a latte? It's just a common, casual way to order.
And when it's time to pay.
You might hear, that I'll be, followed by the price, that'll be $5.50.
Right, that'll be short for, that'll be just signaling the total cost.
Yeah.
Again, easy once you're used to hearing it.
Shall we do a quick practice for cafe phrases?
Let's do it.
Okay, listen and repeat. What can I get for you today? Pause.
And when paying, you might hear this. Repeat. That'll be $5.50. Pause.
Great stuff. As the video emphasizes, actively listening and repeating these common phrases really tunes your ear and makes speaking feel less daunting.
All right, next up, the art of small talk.
Small talk. Sometimes feels awkward, but it's actually really important for everyday interaction and building fluency.
The video shares Maria's story. She moved from Spain, studied English a lot, but felt super nervous about just casual chit-chat.
Yeah, she kind of thought it wasn't as important as grammar or vocabulary.
But then she realized it's happening all the time, right? At work, waiting in line.
Totally. So first week at work, a colleague, John, invites her to lunch. She's worried about what to say.
Understandable.
Then at lunch, John asks her, so how was your weekend?
A standard small talk opener.
Right. But Maria freezes for a second. Back home, maybe people ask, what did you do? She wasn't sure how much detail to give.
And the key insight here is that, how was your weekend? Is just a common, slightly more general way to ask. Small talk isn't usually about deep, detailed
It's
stories.
more about connecting, showing interest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Maria learned it's fine to give a simple answer. It was good, thanks. And then, crucially,
Ask the other person.
right, what about you? That little phrase keeps the conversation flowing easily.
It's a great tip. Listen during small talk, pick up those natural phrases, and practice using them yourself.
Now, something that often comes up is understanding different accents.
Oh, yeah. British, American, Australian, Canadian, Irish, Scottish, plus regional accents within countries, it can be a real challenge.
Definitely. Getting used to variety is key. The video encourages you, the listener, to think about times you felt unsure listening to someone. Maybe they spoke fast, maybe the accent was unfamiliar.
And the message is, don't get discouraged.
Keep practicing, keep listening. Every little bit helps train your ear.
They share an example asking for directions in New York City.
Okay,
Excuse me, how do I get to the subway? And the reply comes back fast. Yeah, just go straight ahead, take a left at the lights, and you'll see it on your right.
so the challenge there was the speed.
Speed, and also that specific phrase, take a left at the lights.
Ah, meaning turn left at the traffic lights.
Exactly. It's a common, casual way to say it, but maybe not what you learned in class.
Shows how real speech differs from textbooks again. They also list other common direction phrases, right?
Yeah, things like go straight, turn left, it's around the corner, or it's just a few blocks away. Good ones to know.
Definitely useful. Okay, what about when things go wrong? Problems, complaints.
Also super important, knowing how to handle issues politely but clearly in English. The video uses a hotel scenario.
Let me guess. Wi-Fi trouble.
You got it. The Wi-Fi isn't working, so the person calls the front desk.
And says,
Something like, "Excuse me, the Wi-Fi isn't working in my room. Could you help me?" Clear and polite.
and the response.
"I'm sorry to hear that. Let me check and see what I can do."
So the key takeaways there are stay calm, explain clearly,
Use phrases like, "I'm having trouble with," or "there's a problem with."
and listen for responses like, let me check on that, or I'll have someone take care of it.
Right. And crucially, don't be afraid to ask if you don't understand the response.
Yeah, saying, could you explain that again, or sorry, I didn't quite catch that, is totally fine.
Better to ask than to misunderstand what's happening.
Okay, so the video doesn't just present these scenarios, it really encourages active practice, right?
Yes, strongly. Imagine yourself in these situations. Practice the language.
Like the cafe example again.
Yeah, picture yourself walking in. Barista says, "What can I get you today?" You reply, "I'd like a latte, please." They say, "That'll be $3.50. Would you like any pastry with that?"
And the idea is to think about how you'd react. Maybe practice saying those lines out loud until they...
Exactly. Same with the directions example in New York. "Excuse me, could you please tell me how to get to the Metropolitan Museum of Art?"
Sure, just go straight for 2 blocks, then turn left at the big intersection, and you'll see the museum on your right.
Repeat that whole exchange, question and answer, to build confidence.
And for small talk.
Practice simple openers. Lovely weather today, isn't it?
Yes, it's a beautiful day. Practice asking, how are you today? Or, what have you been up to lately?
These simple back and forths build comfort.
They also touch on professional settings.
Right, like hearing, let's circle back to that point later in a meeting. The advice is, if you hear unfamiliar work jargon, jot it down, ask about it later if needed.
Good tip, and phone calls.
Practice explaining issues clearly. My connection keeps dropping and it's very frustrating. And practice asking for repetition if you need it.
What about announcements, like at airports?
Practice key phrases. Due to inclement weather, or your flight will be delayed. Knowing those helps you catch the important info quickly.
Makes sense. And talking about hobbies.
Yeah, practice describing what you enjoy. I love reading, hiking, and trying out new recipes. Be ready to talk about your interests.
They even include a quick interactive bit, asking things like, how are you today? To prompt a mental response from the listener.
Yeah, trying to make it really active.
Okay, the video seems to cover a lot of ground, giving more examples for specific situations too.
It does, like work meetings. We need to finalize the project timeline by Friday. Practice that clean, concise language for coordination.
Or conference calls. Let's wrap up the discussion and summarize our key points. Reviewing professional phrases is useful.
Hotel problems again. "Excuse me, the Wi-Fi in my room isn't working." Practice explaining clearly.
They even mention regional variations, like Australian slang ripper deal. Note down local vocabulary.
Social gatherings. Use simple, positive language. "What was the best part of your day?" "I had a wonderful conversation."
Digital communication too.
Yep, formal emails versus informal texts. Practice both styles.
Cultural events, like art shows. Practice descriptive language. This artwork reflects the artist's inner turmoil.
Academic lectures. Practice summarizing info. Today, we will explore the impact of global warming. Ask clarifying questions. Could you please elaborate?
Spontaneous chats. The new park renovations look great, don't they? Practice impromptu speaking.
Online forums. Observe informal language like, it's lit.
Handling disagreements. Practice respectful phrases. I see your point, but I have a different perspective.
Storytelling is another one they mention.
Right, telling a story helps fluency. One day I got lost in the city. Include details.
And then another interactive practice with phrases like, I appreciate your help. Could you please repeat that?
It seems really comprehensive, covering everything from concert announcements
Get ready for an unforgettable performance. Match the energy.
to bookstore interactions,
Could you recommend a good mystery novel? Practice describing books.
government offices.
Good morning. How may I assist you? I need to renew my passport, please. Practice formal language.
Doctor's visits.
How have you been feeling? I have been experiencing headaches. Practice describing symptoms.
Video calls.
Can everyone see my screen? Practice clear speaking online.
News reports.
Summarize news in your own words. Local communities are coming together.
Community forums or debates.
Practice agreeing, disagreeing. I agree social media has benefits, but I'm curious about
Shopping.
polite inquiries. Excuse me, could you help me locate? Clear directions. Yes, it's on the second floor.
Unexpected situations.
Quick communication. Looks like rain, let's find shelter.
And discussing preferences, like food.
Compare ideas, use descriptive words. I love Italian food, but I'm also fond of the spicy kick of Thai cuisine.
Wow, they really pack a lot of scenarios in there.
They do. It's all about illustrating the language in real context. They also briefly mention nonverbal cues, even in audio.
Like tone of voice.
Yeah, and even suggesting smiling while speaking it can come across in your tone.
Interesting. And multimedia for practice.
Absolutely. Audiobooks, radio, podcasts like this one. And they suggest shadowing.
Shadowing.
Repeating sentences right after you hear them, trying to mimic the intonation, the rhythm.
Ah, okay. Good technique. And language apps, too, presumably.
Yes, for pronunciation drills and listening exercises.
So, wrapping up the core message, it seems to be about patience and consistent practice.
Exactly. Improvement is gradual. Celebrate the small wins. Don't be afraid to just jump into conversations, even if you make mistakes.
Confidence comes from clarity and comfort, not necessarily perfection.
Right. Practice the small stuff, greetings, introductions. Express thoughts simply at first.
Active listening is key, too. Showing interest.
And taking a moment to think before responding, that's okay.
Using slightly more formal language when needed.
And just practicing regularly, even a few minutes daily. During your commute, while doing chores.
Language exchange partners, online communities.
Keep consuming English media shows, books, podcasts.
And repeat phrases you hear, say them out loud.
And importantly, acknowledge your progress. Every conversation is a step.
They also suggest focusing on topics you enjoy, right?
Yeah, practice talking about things you're passionate about. Hobbies, sports, food. It makes practice more engaging.
And again, embracing small talk as a low-pressure way to build confidence.
Simple questions. What did you do today? Did you like the movie?
It's all part of the journey, isn't it? Ups and downs.
Definitely. The key is to keep pushing, keep practicing. Every conversation counts.
So the video really emphasizes continuing the journey, diving deeper.
Yes, using real-life situations, personal examples. Mastering a language means immersion, natural conversation.
And adapting your communication style.
I remember trying to order food in a country where I barely spoke the language. Lots of pointing and gestures.
But you got understood.
Eventually.
Yeah.
And that's the key sometimes, just making yourself understood, not being grammatically perfect.
So practice speaking naturally, mistakes and all. Focus on the flow.
Pay attention to how people stress words, use pauses, express feelings in their voice.
They mention a friend using the word overwhelming to describe moving to a new city.
Yeah, noticing how people express emotions and experiences adds another layer to understanding.
So it's not just vocabulary, but emotional expression too.
Exactly. They even mention watching sitcoms to learn casual phrases, like Chandler from Friends saying, "Could you be any more dramatic?"
Yes, sitcoms are great for that. They also acknowledge the speed challenge, right? Native speakers talking fast.
Oh, yeah. But consistent listening helps you adjust. It's okay not to catch every word at first.
And mimicking, again, repeating conversations you hear.
Focusing on pronunciation, rhythm, tone. Practice in front of a mirror, record yourself.
And finally, understanding formality levels.
Super important. Asking your boss for a report. Could you please send me the report?
Versus asking a coworker informally, hey, can you send me that report?
Or clarifying something in a professional email. I just wanted to clarify.
Compared to a quick chat message, hey, I didn't get what you meant.
Knowing those differences is crucial for navigating different social and professional contexts.
It really sounds like the core message is consistent, context-based practice leads to confidence and naturalness.
That sums it up perfectly. So, to quickly recap our deep dive based on the English Pod community's insights.
It's really about listening actively to real English, understanding context, common phrases, pronunciation variations.
Handling everyday situations, from ordering coffee to small talk to dealing with problems.
Practicing actively, not being afraid of mistakes,
Yeah.
and building confidence step by step through consistent effort.
Exactly.
So, here's a thought for you, our listener. After exploring all these real-life scenarios, what everyday English conversation are you most looking forward to trying out now?
Ooh, good question.
And maybe, what new phrase will you make a point of using?
Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you so much for diving deep with us today on The Deep Dive, brought to you by English Daily Podcasts.
It's been great discussing this.
If you have source materials, articles, videos, anything you'd like us to explore in a future deep dive, please do send them our way.
We'd love to see them.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and keep learning.